And we are live. We are witnessing history right now. What's happening in the economy today, last week, last month, and in future months to come will you will see documentaries made about this. You will see books written about what's going on. And I think that this is a time that you really should be paying attention to everything, all of the pieces on the chessboard. Crude oil hit $0 today for this coming futures contract and then fell below $0 all the way down to $40.32. I really want you to think about that for a second. You always hear people talk about how Bitcoin is a scam and it's a Ponzi scheme because it's so volatile and it has no intrinsic value. Yet crude oil fell to negative $40.32. What that means and what that entails is that the oil producers, they actually have to pay traders to store the crude oil because there's so much supply and there's no demand whatsoever. And then right on cue, who do you see jumping out there and starting to scoop up some of this oil? You see Russia and China. Because see, China and Russia realize the West is weak. The emperor has no clothes. What does this mean for the petro-dollar? Because I told you guys time and time again that we had one of the benefits where we could export our inflation, because in order to buy crude oil, other countries had to convert their currency into US dollars. There's so much stuff happening right now. And you have to be a three-dimensional thinker in this because there will be opportunity. We're headed for a depression. The Federal Reserve is predicting and forecasting that when this is all said and done, that we may see 35 to 40 million people unemployed. This is not the time to be buying oil futures. I told you guys that we're going to see record bankruptcies. The only thing that will stop this is going to be what? The money printer has to go brr. We know that. So now if you want to speculate on that you believe that the Fed is going to step in, which most likely they will have to, well, what does that do to the confidence of the OPEC nations? Because remember, if we inflate our currency, well, markets move with supply and demand, right? So if we flood the market with dollars, well, what does that do to countries who export oil? So there's a lot of moving pieces that's happening right now. And at the end of the day, as I've told you guys before, there's a lot of pain to come and there will be opportunity. And this is why it's important, why you want to make sure that you own assets that will actually protect you. Because, I get a lot of trolls that come on these videos, and I'll get to that in a second. But before I jump to that, as you come in, there's 154 of you watching this. Like the video, share this video, get this information out to other people. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Make sure that you join my mailing list so that I can email you and notify you in case YouTube isn't when I'm going live. If you want to be able to communicate with me and, share some ideas, ask me some questions, follow me on Instagram and send me a direct message. And if you want to support the content financially, a link to my PayPal will be in the description below. If everyone can hear me loud and clearly, just type a 1 so I know that my audio is good and there isn't a reverb. We'll check the markets real quick, and then we'll get to what's happening in the crude oil markets. Okay, so the audio is good. Okay, so let's look at the overall market. As you can see, the S&P was down 51 points. The Dow was down 592 points. Thank you for the donation, J Radical. Also, Ray's Realm, thank you for the donation as well. I'll get to some of your questions later on. But again, thank you. I appreciate those of you supporting the content. So you can see the U.S. indices were down today. Gold caught a bid. Gold was up about $10 for the day. It's starting to trade down now. And that's what I wanted to get to in a second. We can see the S&P. I told you guys I would not be looking to buy this market. I would be looking to fade this market. The only way that this market can go up is if the Fed keeps printing trillions of dollars. Now think about this. Crude oil just crashed to negative $40.32. We have interest rates at 0%. The government just did a bailout package of $6.2 trillion. And then the Fed just guaranteed another $4.5 trillion. That means we're at $10.7 trillion. And crude oil is crashing, which means now, because many of these refiners and these shale companies, right, and these major oil companies, because they're in so much debt, the Fed already said that they're going to start buying junk debt. The Fed's now going to have to probably come out of pocket another $4 trillion. If oil's crashing and you have that much liquidity in the system, that should tell you that this economy is fragile. That should tell you that we were not in a booming economy. When you can see crude oil crash like that, that should be a key to you that all of this was fake. It wasn't real. It was artificial. And that's why I told you guys, in order for the economy to get back to where we were, it's going to take easily $16 trillion. Not even to get back to where we were, just to get the economy started again. Many of these jobs in these businesses, they are never coming back. Never. The world is going to fundamentally change. I promise you, going forward. Let's look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin's trading down for today. It's at $6,892. And overall, the crypto market in general is just down across the board. And that's because right now it's correlated to the stock market. Now, before we get to the article, Trump's an idiot. I hate to say this. I know many of you are Trump supporters. Many of you are into this whole left-right paradigm. You know where I stand. The Republican Party and the Democrat Party is just the left and the right wing of the same bird. But I want you to look at what your president tweeted out on April 12th. And then I want you to see where we are today on the 20th. Your president tweeted out, the big oil deal with OPEC Plus is done. This will save hundreds of thousands of energy jobs in the United States. I would like to thank and congratulate President Putin of Russia and King Salman of Saudi Arabia. I just spoke to them from the Oval Office. Great deal for all. Your president was tweeting out that he put together a great deal, that everything was solved, that everything was fine. And then this happened today. This happened today. Price for West Texas oil for May delivery, right? Because remember, futures is forward looking, goes negative. So we're going to read this article, and I think it's important that you understand this. This is the same guy that said that the whole SBA loan and the PPP program was going well when people were saying that the banks wasn't even taking and processing their applications. President Trump is a habitual liar. He lies, lies, and lies. And if you can't see that this man is a straight up liar, I don't know what to tell you. Things are not good right now. They're bad. And when I finish reading this article, you'll have a better understanding as to what's going on. So it says oil plunges below zero for the first time in unprecedented wipeout. U.S. crude trades at lowest level in data going back to 1946. Crude in U.S. trades more than $40 below zero at the lowest level. It says the price on a futures contract for West Texas crude that is due to expire Tuesday fell into negative territory, minus $37.63 a barrel. The reason, with the virus bringing the economy to a standstill, there is so much unused oil sloshing around that American energy companies have to run out of room to store it. And if there's no place to put the oil, no one wants a crude contract that is about to come due, because there's nowhere to store this oil right now. Underscoring just how acute the concern is over the lack of immediate storage space, the price on the futures contract due a month later settled at $20.43 per barrel. The gap between the two contracts is by far the biggest ever. The May crude oil contract is going out not with a whimper, but a primal scream, said Daniel Yergin, a Pulitzer Prize winning oil historian and vice chairman of IHS Markit Limited. And I want to look at this chart, right? It broke below zero all the way down. Now, remember when I was telling you before, when you saw gold prices trading down, when the whole market was trading down, I told you that there were big funds right now being liquidated. There is a lot of hedge funds and institutional funds that are in trouble right now. They were heavily leveraged in trading in this oil market. And when this oil market blows up like this, this is how you get a negative price, because they're being forced liquidated. They're being forced out of positions. So when you saw gold selling off back here, and I was telling you guys, this was just margin selling. This was people being forced out of the market. Gold shouldn't be trading down. Gold should be trading up, because they were being forced out. And I'm going to get to the articles of the hedge funds blowing up. And many of these major oil refineries and shale companies, they're going to be going bankrupt as well. Because remember when I was talking to you about low interest rates, these people were levering up their balance sheet and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing and borrowing. Now, many of these people were purposely borrowing, knowing that the Fed, if they got into trouble, would bail them out because they're too big to fail. And that's what we're beginning to see. Right? So understand this. Thank you for the donation, Humble Kurt. Right? So we're going to get to this stuff because it's important that you understand this. And just to jump from the article real quick, right now, for the year, right? For an entire, if you go back a year, gold is up 33%, right? While the rest of the market is down and is going to go lower, gold is up 33%. So when I have the trolls come on here and tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about, if you brought gold, you're making money right now, and you've removed a lot of that volatility out of your profile. If you own stocks right now, you're down about anywhere from 10 to 15%, and you're going much lower. So we wiped out all of the gains from last year in the stock market. And believe me when I tell you, we're going much lower. The only way the stock market can go up is if the Fed prints more money. Now, if the Fed prints more money and the stock market goes back up, what does that do to the price of gold? This is why all commodities are not created equal. This is why gold is money, right? You can create more, you can find more supply of oil to the point where we have too much supply. You can't find too much supply of gold. And this is why I was trying to tell you guys before about the stock to flow ratio. This is why oil can never be money, because it's so easy to find more oil to the point where the market is oversupplied in oil. You can't find more gold. It's not easy to find gold. It's hard to find gold. You have to go further and further and further into the ground. This is why out of all of the commodities, not zinc, not copper, not iron, not aluminum, but gold was used as money because it's hard to find it, right? And remember, when you're exchanging time for money, you need to get paid in something that's not easy to produce, right? It's easy to produce more oil. It's easy to find more copper, more aluminum. It's not easy to find gold. And that's why gold is money, because it's God's money. But back to the article. It says, there is little to prevent the physical market from the further acute downside path over the near term. So they're expecting it to go much lower, said Michael Tran, managing director of global energy strategy at RBC Capital Markets. Refiners are rejecting barrels at a historic pace, and with the U.S. storage levels sprinting to the brim, market forces will inflict further pain until either we hit rock bottom or this pandemic clears, whichever comes first. But it looks like the former, which means there's more pain to come. Since the start of the year, oil prices have plunged after compounding impacts of the pandemic and a breakdown in the original OPEC agreement, with no end in sight and producers around the world continuing to pump. That's causing a fire sale among traders who don't have access to storage. The extreme move showed just how oversupplied the U.S. oil market has become, with industrial and economic activity grinding to a halt as governments around the globe extend shutdowns due to the swift spread of the pandemic. An unprecedented output deal by OPEC and allied members a week ago to curb supply is proving too little, too late. In the face a 1/3 collapse in global demand. They definitely wrote that wrong. And this goes back to your president right here. Look what your president tweeted out. He said everything was going to be fine, right? And it's not fine. You can't say that Trump is playing chess, not checkers. Many of your oil producers are going to go bankrupt. We are going to lose millions of jobs. Now start thinking about the dominoes that are going to fall. Right? Like, this is not a smart move. This is a stupid move. This is not smart at all. And I just want to wrap this up. I don't want to read too much. It says in New York, West Texas Intermediate for May delivery dropped as low as negative $40.32 a barrel. It's far below the lowest level previous seen in continuation monthly data charts since 1946, just after World War II. Right? Now, let's get to what's going to happen with the jobs, because I think that this is important, because you see people talking about 4D chess. This isn't 4D chess. Remember, if the refineries and the drillers, if they have to lay people off or if they go bankrupt, that's manufacturing jobs that we lose. That's manufacturing companies that we lose. Now, that guy that's employed, he has to go on unemployment. That puts a burden on the taxpayer. He can't now pay his mortgage. He can't now pay his car note. So that's less revenue now going to that car company. That's less revenue going to the bank. Now, I want you to think about the banks that hold the debt for these oil companies. If the oil company goes bust, the bank doesn't collect revenue. So what does the bank have to do? Well, then the bank has to lay people off. Well, what does the mortgage company have to do? What does the local grocery store or corner store in these towns do when that business goes belly up and now they no longer have business? The business is not there anymore, and the people who work there aren't spending money in that store. Well, then they have to shut down. So it becomes a cascading domino effect. Now think of all the derivatives that is attached in the banking system, in the financial system, to that debt. Think about the bondholders and the pension holders who are holding that debt, who are depending on these oil companies to pay their debts, and they're living off the interest. Well, now they have to take a haircut. So you begin to start to see how this has cascading effects all throughout your economy. And it's a reason why Russia and Saudi Arabia continue to keep pumping, because they see that this is a chance now to destabilize the West. They see that the West is asleep at the wheel. And this is why China and Russia want to diversify outside of the dollar. And I'm going to get to that in a second. And this is where cryptocurrency comes into play. And a lot of you are not paying attention to that. It says oil prices turn negative. Hundreds of U.S. oil companies could go bankrupt. Right? It says The pandemic has caused oil demand to drop so rapidly that the world is running out of room to store barrels. At the same time, Russia and Saudi Arabia flooded the world with excess supply. The double black swan has caused oil prices to collapse to levels that make it impossible for U.S. shale oil companies to make money. U.S. crude for May delivery turned negative on Monday. We already know this. So it says U.S. crude for June delivery is still trading above $20 a barrel, but even that's disastrous. So if you look at future months for June, July, and August, it's trading at $20 a barrel. But many of these companies need oil to be above 30 in order to make money. They can't make money with oil below $20. $30 is already quite bad. But once you get to $20 or even $10, it's a complete nightmare, said Artem Abrov. Many oil companies took on too much debt during the good times. Some of them won't be able to survive this historic downturn. What have I been telling you guys about debt? Everyone, because interest rates were so low, everyone was feeding themselves with debt, over leveraging themselves. We were in a bubble. So when Trump was tweeting that this was the greatest economy ever, it wasn't. It was because of cheap money and cheap interest rates. And when you seen the stock market go up, it was because companies were buying back their stock, not because they were hiring people and paying them fair wages. Not because they were investing in infrastructure. No, they were doing financial engineering. And now we have a little slowdown. All of these companies, if they were doing the right thing and properly planning, all of these companies shouldn't be in trouble. And I told you, look, we have AMC talking about they're going to go bankrupt. Let me read two more paragraphs and I'm going to get to something else. In a $20 oil environment, 533 U.S. oil exploration and production companies will file for bankruptcy by the end of 2021, according to Rystad Energy. At $10, there would be more than 1,100 bankruptcies. Think about that. They're talking about at $20 oil, if it stays at 20, we're talking about 533 companies that will have to file for bankruptcy. What have I been saying on this channel? I've been telling you guys over and over again, you're going to see record bankruptcies because there is too much debt in the system. The only way the economy can grow is by people and companies going into debt, right? Now, right on cue, I talked about AMC. Look who right now is flirting with the idea of bankruptcy. 24-Hour Fitness reportedly considers bankruptcy options as pandemic continues to squeeze gems across the U.S. Now, people come on here and say, oh, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You're not an economist. You don't have a PhD. I told you guys, this is like 9/11. This is going to fundamentally change a lot of things in a lot of industries. And there are certain businesses and industries that are going to go away and they're never going to come back. And I don't claim to be some expert. I lived through 2008. I just didn't have any money and I couldn't participate in 2008. I now have money invested in this market. I've done extensive amounts of research. You combine what's happening with technology, with robots, with microchips becoming more powerful and more efficient versus what's happening with the debt, versus what's happening with China. We're having a demand disruption and a supply disruption. And then you're having a Cold War happening at the same time because, as I said before, the rest of the world sees the West as weak right now. America's fat, it's sloppy, it's out of control, and it's not aware. Our citizens are asleep at the wheel. No one's paying attention. Everyone's worried about when can we go back outside. Everyone only cares about going back outside. No one cares about the dominoes that are falling all around them. No one's paying attention to the partnerships that's happening. How, let me share this article. A growing club of very powerful countries is steering away from using the dollar. Hold on. It looks like my stream went away. Oh, my stream's there. I thought my stream went away for a second, guys. It went off. It came back online, right? Is it back on? Guys, is the stream back on real quick? Just type 1 if the stream came back on. Okay, good. So, as I told you guys, if you go back to Bretton Woods, back in 44, where we set the US dollar as the reserve currency, what gave the dollar power? What gave it authority? Right? A fiat currency isn't money because you say it's money. It had to be linked to something. That's because the dollar used to be linked to gold. That's what gave it the power in the first place. And then they slowly but surely began to drift away from the gold standard through Bretton Woods and then completely delinking it in 1971 with Nixon. Well, you have countries now saying, we don't like the petrodollar. And we don't like the fact that we have to convert our currency into dollars in order to buy commodities like oil. And you get to inflate your currency whenever you see fit and bail out your companies as you see fit. So let's read this a little bit. The US dollar has been the world's major reserve currency for decades, but this status could come under threat as very powerful countries seek to undermine its importance, warned Ann Coren. Major movers such as China, Russia, and the European Union have strong motivation to de-dollarize. We don't know what's going to come next, but what we do know is that the current situation is unsustainable. Unsustainable. It says, to be sure, the dollar is seen as one of the safest investments in the world. But one factor curbing countries' enthusiasm for the greenback is the prospect of being subject to U.S. jurisdiction when they transact in dollars. When the U.S. dollar is used or transactions are cleared through an American bank, entities are subject to U.S. jurisdiction, even if they have nothing to do with the United States. Now, this goes back to AML, KYC. This goes back to cryptocurrency. Right? Certain countries and people, they want to be able to transact and do business and do it privately and not have to disclose who they are and have to give the U.S. all of that power where they can seize their funds. Right? People want a permissionless, openless, borderless currency. And people are looking for alternatives. As I told you before, China brought 100 tons of gold. You don't buy 100 tons of gold if everything is okay. You don't do that just because. Right here, Europe wants to do business with Iran. It doesn't want to be subject to U.S. law for doing business with Iran, right? She said, nobody wants to be picked up at an airport for doing business with countries that the U.S. isn't happy that they're doing business with. Because, see, the U.S. has weaponized the dollar. And right on cue, this happened. Where's the article at? I had the article in here. Give me 1 second. Here we go. The Trump administration warns Iraq could lose their New York Fed account if U.S. troops are forced to leave. So because of the way that the petrodollar is set up, when countries like Iran buy oil or sell oil, that oil basically goes to the New York Fed Bank. Well, when we was going to pull our troops out of Iraq, when Iraq said they want the troops out, Trump said, if you force the troops to leave, we're going to freeze your account and keep your money. So this is why people are looking for an alternative currency. This is why people don't want to have to use the dollar, because they can just say, you know what, we're going to keep your money. It's at our bank. It's at the New York Fed. Oh, you want our troops to leave Iraq? Well, we're going to keep $3 billion of your money. And I'll read a little bit of this for you, because see, all of this is linked together. All of these things are happening at one time. there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle, that's a lot of pieces on the chessboard that's moving, and you have to pay attention to all of them, right? It says the Trump administration this week warned Iraq that it could lose access to its central bank account at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York if Baghdad expels troops from the region, Iraqi officials told the Wall Street Journal. Right? It says shutting down Iraq's account at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York could be detrimental to its financial system. The country puts its revenue from oil sales there and takes out that money to pay government salaries and contracts. The Fed held almost $3 billion in overnight deposits at the close of 2018, according to most recent financial statement from the Central Bank of Iraq. So you have the government, you have the U.S. government being a bully. And now, because of what's happening with this pandemic, you're seeing Iran, Saudi Arabia, Russia, China saying this is a time to pounce. So when they said to Trump that, hey, we're going to do this OPEC deal with oil, they still kept pumping and flooding the market with supply to now where oil prices are crashing. Here we go right here. More about bankruptcy. Former Singapore billionaire Lim's oil giant files for bankruptcy. Hin Leong Trading, one of Singapore's largest independent oil traders, said that it failed to declare about $800 million in futures losses over the years. Reuters citing a court filing dated April 17th. The company is seeking a 6-month moratorium on its roughly $3.85 billion debt load owed to 23 banks. Again, people are blowing up. You're going to see more hedge funds blow up. You're going to see more big oil traders blow up, which is going to have to do what? The money printer is going to have to go brrr. It's going to have to go. Here we go right here. Oil companies cut jobs, brace for bankruptcies. So when people say, oh, Trump's just playing 4D chess, this is not 4D chess. When crude oil goes to negative $40.32, that's not 4D chess. That's going to hurt our economy in a major way. In a major way. But back to this article. It says more oil field service companies dismissed workers this week, and law firms braced for an onslaught of coming bankruptcies in an industry slammed by slumping fuel demand and crashing prices during the pandemic. Firms that provide oil field services and equipment had barely recovered from the 2014-2016 downturn before crude oil prices last month plunged to near 2-decade lows. Now, what was happening in 2014 and 2016? Think about that. And then what just recently happened back in 2018? Oh, we had the trade war. That's right. Pay attention. Many were already operating on thin margins and now face customers pushing for deep price cuts. Houston, Texas-based fracking services company NCS Multistage Holdings is cutting about 80 employees, or 20% of its staff, of its workforce, while Canadian firm Step Energy Services also is shedding more than 150 workers in Texas and Oklahoma due to the drastic downturn in oil, according to workforce filings. Follow me here. This is important. This goes back to what I've been saying. 8 oil field providers with a total of $10.9 billion in debt have filed for bankruptcy this year, including 3 since prices fell to $20 a barrel in early March, according to a report released on Tuesday by law firm Haynes & Boone. Lawyers anticipate more trouble ahead. Now, they were already filing for bankruptcy at 20. What do you think they're going to do when you have negative $40 a barrel? And as I said before, this cascades, this ripples through your economy. This ripples through your economy. I already told you, you have AMC filing for bankruptcy. Now you have 24-Hour Fitness talking about filing for bankruptcy. When I saw them here in New York City, I live in New York. When I seen them take the hoops down out of the park, I said, this is not going to end overnight. This is not going to be, in a month, everything goes back to normal. Do you understand how much it's going to take to get the economy back on its feet? I want you to really think about that. Interest rates are at 0%. The government just did a $6.2 trillion bailout. The Fed just did another $4.5 trillion. And now they're talking about buying junk bonds. Understand that when you're buying junk bonds, they're called junk bonds for a reason. They pay high interest rates because many of these companies, they're not good companies. They have too much debt and they may not be able to pay that debt. And in the CARES legislation, what were they talking about? They wanted a what? A digital dollar. And what do you see China and Russia talking about? Moving away from the US dollar, not being forced to have to transact in the US dollar. Right? But you have people saying Bitcoin's a Ponzi scheme. And I want to share some tweets that people put out because I thought it was interesting, some of the things that I seen on Twitter. Right? Here you have Peter Brandt. He tweeted out, how much blood will be on the street because of crude oil? Bankrupt trading firms, NYMEX margin calls not met, futures commission merchants, right? You're witnessing history. Bitcoin has never dropped 110% in one day. Right? Look at this. Remember when Bitcoin was a risky investment? Right? They said crypto is too new and too risky. Well, oil has been trading since 1861 and it just went below zero. And I laugh when I see things because, you have a lot of people who they say things and they just talk. Yeah, oil went back up. But you have to understand, this is the current futures contract. When you're talking about futures is a market where basically companies are speculating on the future. You have producers, you have traders, you have companies who are basically, some people are hedging themselves with future prices. Some people are speculating that the future price is going to go up. When you have oil being priced out all the way to September and they're pricing crude oil at $20 and below, that means that they're expecting that there isn't going to be a lot of demand. There's too much supply right now. So think about this. We have too much supply right now. There's no place to store the crude oil. I want you to really think about this, right? See, because this isn't complicated stuff. Remember, let's say I am a storage facility. I allow you to store crude oil at my facility. Well, I have enough to take 50 million barrels of oil. Okay, I have 50 million barrels of oil. I can't store any more oil here. But you're producing 10 million barrels per day. Now, everyone's stuck at home. So that 10 million that you're producing every day, no one's using that 10 million or very few people. So now there's nowhere to put the 8 that may be left over or the 6 million barrels that might be left over. So now we already are oversupplied and the drillers, the producers, they have to keep producing. Well, if you have nowhere to put it and no one's using it, you become oversupplied to the point where now the producers, they actually have to pay the traders to hold the oil. That's why it went negative, right? So think about it. The price of oil may be $20, but if there's nowhere to put that barrel of oil, that means that you're going to have to pay someone. And what happens in markets with supply and demand? If there's a lot of supply and not a lot of demand, well, prices have to go down to the point where they had to go negative. And what's going to happen next month if the economy is in the same condition that it's in this month? Then we're going to have more negative prices, which is going to keep putting pressure. Now, I'm glad someone talked about airlines and cruise ships. What's happening right now with airlines and cruise ships? Are people taking cruises? Are people going on airlines? No, they're not. Ask yourself this question. This is the really important question, right? If they opened up the economy tomorrow, would you want to get on a cruise that's jam-packed? Would you want to get on a plane that's jam-packed? I know I wouldn't. And give me a second. Let me take a sip of water. Now, as I said to you guys, we're investors here, right? We're looking at the market and we're saying to ourselves, where's the opportunity? You have to ask yourself a fundamental question. Do you think the Fed is going to allow all of these oil companies to go bankrupt? Right? Now, we know the answer to this. We know the answer. We know the answer is no. They're not going to let these companies go bankrupt. So now, when you have these people talking about inflation, you don't have to be a PhD economist to figure this out. 6.2 trillion here, 4.5 trillion here. You have the unfunded liabilities for the retirees. You have the Social Security basically being bankrupt, not having enough people paying in versus people receiving benefits. We're running $24 trillion in a national deficit. I'll pull it up for you right now. U.S. debt clock. So you can see that. At a certain point, you get to a point where this becomes unsustainable. We're at $24 trillion with our national debt. So, for the stock market to go back up, they have to print money. If they have to print money, your stock may come back. What is that going to do to the value of your money? Now, what does that do to the price of my favorite investment, gold? What do you think happens to gold? If gold is already performing well, and gold is already up 30% for the year, what do you think happens again? If gold's already up 30%, now let's put on our 3D thinking caps. As I said to you before, you're seeing that Russia and China and Iran is running a Cold War against the US. What happens if they want to start to get the rest of the world? Because China already purchased 100 tons of gold, right? You're going to wake up one day, mark my words, and you're going to see gold up $100. You're going to see gold up $200 because Russia and China is going to start colluding together through the futures market, and they're going to spike the price of gold to make people become and lose confidence in the US dollar. You're going to see that one day. You're going to wake up and I promise you, you're going to see gold spike $100 out of nowhere because Russia and China is going to get together and they're going to want to make the rest of the world wake up and say, we don't need the dollar. I'm telling you, this is happening. This is not a guess. I don't guess when I speak about investments. You can see it right here, 33% for the year. Gold's up 33%. It's money. And this is grossly undervalued. The entire gold market globally is about $8 trillion. $8 trillion. Your government just printed 10 trillion or committed to $10 trillion in spending in 2 weeks. And that's just one country. Think about that for a second. One country. The gold market is 8 trillion. Between 6.2 trillion with the stimulus and the bailout, and another 4.5 from the Fed, that's $10.7 trillion. In 2 weeks, they printed more money that's larger than the gold market cap. Now, the next step is, because, as I said before, you have people, you cannot tell me that Bitcoin's a Ponzi scheme anymore. I don't want you to talk to me about Bitcoin's volatility anymore. When the price of crude oil crashed 122%. And you come on here and you say, well, what's Bitcoin's intrinsic value? Well, doesn't oil have all of the intrinsic value you could ever think of? Right? I mean, it's in your food products. You needed to ship your goods and services. You need it to drive. Like you need oil. Isn't oil as intrinsic as it can become? Well, it just crashed. So that should tell you that intrinsic value doesn't determine whether or not something is or isn't valuable. You already see China and Russia buying record tons of gold. Where's all of the mining being centralized at? Who is one of the largest holders of cryptocurrency? China. Now think about this. Bitcoin's entire market cap is $126 billion. You're telling me that Bitcoin can't get 1 trillion globally? One country, the United States, just printed $10.7 trillion in 2 weeks. So when you begin to start wrapping your mind around what's happening, you can begin to start to see the world is looking for an alternative to the dollar. The world is looking for an alternative to the US dollar. They're looking for a new system. We're watching it happen in our faces. Crude oil falling below zero should tell you that should wipe out that whole intrinsic value thing. The marketplace determines what value is, not you, the marketplace. The marketplace determines what is money, and the marketplace determines what something is and isn't worth. Now, yeah, okay, Tyler Bennett, China is dependent on oil. And China is saying that they want to be able to buy oil and not have to convert into US dollars. They want to be able to buy their oil from Iran and not have to get sanctioned. It's not about depending on oil. No one's not saying that we don't need oil. I never said that we don't need oil. And China never said that they don't need oil. What we're saying is that people see that this is a chance to stab the West through our manufacturing, through our trade deficit, through our national deficit, and also through the fact of if Russia and China can get together and they can say, hey, we don't want to have to use the petro-dollar anymore. We want to create our own currency. And we want to be able to go do business with Iran and cut out the United States. That's what this is about. People are saying they don't want to use the US dollar anymore. And this is what I'm trying to get you to understand, that this is why you own gold. This is why you own crypto. Because you want to own alternative assets, because people are looking for something new. And when people tell you that Bitcoin's a Ponzi scheme because it's so volatile and it has no intrinsic value except for selling it to the next person, being able to transact freely and openly and not disclose who you are, that's value in itself. Like the guy just said in the article, if you're in Europe and you want to buy oil from Iran, you can't do it. Because if you do it, the US will get mad at you. Trump threatened Iraq that if you force us to pull our troops out of Baghdad, we're going to seize your $3 billion that you have at the New York Fed Bank. They are weaponizing the dollar. And people are tired of it. So again, you're watching these things unfold. And I think that you need to really start opening up your eyes. As I said before, you're going to see more bankruptcies happen. This market right now, people say, oh, look, the market went up. Why did the market go up? Did this market go up because companies are hiring more people, because they're opening back up, because sales are growing? Or did this market go up because the Fed said that they're going to start buying ETFs and bail everyone out? Right? They pumped trillions of dollars into this market. Now, at what point does the rest of the world say, hey, we're tired of you having that right to print money out of thin air and we can't? You think China is not sitting back saying they wish that they could print money? Because see, remember, we're the reserve currency. So we can export our inflation because other countries, they have to convert their currency into US dollars in order to do business. When we run a trade deficit, what do we buy their goods and services with? We buy it with inflated dollars. So we're shipping our inflated dollars and buying their goods at low levels. Why do you think stuff is so cheap when you can buy it from Walmart? Because we're exporting our inflation to other people. You don't think that other countries are tired of that? Now, as I said before, you have to have a thinking cap. You have to be a thinker. People always say, oh, you're a flip-flopper. No, I'm an investor. It's called hedging yourself. I know two things are going to happen. The government's either going to print money or they're going to let everyone fail. What do you think is going to happen? They're going to keep printing money. I don't have time to be playing guess who, right? Especially when I manage people's money. So I put my money in things that I know are stable and safe. I believe that the government's going to keep printing money until the rest of the world tells them to stop, which then goes what? War. So guess where I put my money at? I put my money into gold. I put my money in gold. Because I know if they print more money, gold's going to go up. If the market sells off, gold is viewed as a safe haven. Money's going to flow into gold. And then I speculate in alternative assets like Bitcoin because I understand before this year's over, and you can mark this in the book and play this video again, Bitcoin's going to reach new all-time highs. Watch and see. We have the halving coming up in 23 days. That means that every 210,000 blocks, the Bitcoin subsidy gets cut in half. And we're going to go from 12.5 Bitcoin every new block to 6.25. After 2140, no new Bitcoin will be issued. Now, again, what gives gold value? It's scarce. It's rare. It's hard to produce it. There is no harder money than Bitcoin. So, I'll take a few questions, but I'll leave it like this. As I said at the beginning of this video, we are witnessing history right now. There will be books and documentaries written and made about what's happening today. If you go back and you look at 2008, we had Too Big to Fail. We had The Big Short. And I think you should go back and you should watch that movie, The Big Short, read the book, real good book. Go back and look at Too Big to Fail. And you're going to see the same thing happen today. And you shouldn't be afraid. There's going to be, of course, silver's a good bet, Brandon Rogers. When I'm talking about precious metals, I'm talking about both gold and silver. Silver is actually a better investment because it's so undervalued, but I'll cover that in a second. Remember when I told you that we are in the best of times and we are in the worst of times. There will be opportunity mixed with difficulty. Some parts of the economy will feel like it's in a depression. Other parts will feel like a recession. And in some places, it will boom. You know, Jim Cramer always says this. Bears make money. Bulls make money. Pigs get slaughtered. And you need to be finding you a place to go with your assets. If you don't have money or you don't want to play this game, don't play in it, right? The world's not going to end. I promise you, the world will still be here in 10 years from now. The world will still be here 20 years from now. It just will look a hell of a lot different. And someone else may be in power. But be very, very resilient now. Be careful to what you're listening to. Make sure you have a plan. I tell you guys all the time, have supplies. Network with other people. Own some gold and silver. Have some cash on hand just in case the ATMs go down. Be prepared. Be smart. Things are not going back to normal. Now, if I'm wrong, I'll come on here and I'll say that I'm wrong. You don't see crude oil drop to negative $40.32 and think that everything's okay. You just don't. You don't take down the hoops in New York City. They took down every the hoops in every park if you believe that everything's going back to normal. Be prepared. Be smart. Be flexible. Be diversified. If you have a portfolio, allocate anywhere from 10 to 20% to precious metals. Even if you own, I don't recommend this. This isn't financial advice. Even if you want to own the GLD ETF, I don't think that that's smart because I know that HSBC, I believe, is behind it and they're in trouble financially. So be very, very smart. Own physical stuff. Own you some land and be prepared. So with that being said, guys, let's look at the chat and see what's going on. And thank you for those of you who donated. Let me go in here and see who donated. You asking where do you buy at? No problem. I'll put up some websites right now for you. One True Iceman. Give me 1 second. This is where you can buy gold and silver at right now. This is a site called AppMex. Let's copy that and let's paste it. And hit the like button, guys. It helps the content get out there. There's 420 of you watching this. Happy 420 day, too, by the way, for those of you who are smokers. No, I said there's no Bitcoin ETFs. There are definitely gold ETFs. And if I said that, I must have misspoken. But there are no Bitcoin ETFs. There are no cryptocurrency ETFs. There are crypto futures for Bitcoin to trade, and some exchanges have Ethereum, but there are definitely gold ETFs. So if I said that, I must have misspoken, but there's definitely gold ETFs. And I don't believe I've ever said that before. Maybe you may have misheard me. Happy to be nappy. Grant Cardone fired people and halt dividend payments for 3 months to his investors. I can imagine what Jay is going through. Yeah. No problem, Jay. No problem, J Hove 82. Yeah. I got burned in VeChain. I still think that VeChain may end up being a good project, but there's a lot of stuff happening right now with VeChain. If we see Bitcoin take off, all of these other altcoins are going to take off because people like to gamble and speculate. And if you're looking to, double your money and triple your money faster, you can play in these altcoins. The position I'm in, remember, guys, I have a big amount of money that I'm playing with because I'm managing other people's money. So I can't play in these little small cryptocurrencies. But when you see these cryptos, $1 billion here, $2 billion here, if Bitcoin takes off, the rest of them are going to take off. And that's my thesis. So, whatever project you're into, you should be fine. But at a certain point, it's going to get down to, is this an actual real use case cryptocurrency, or is this someone that's just basically playing on naive, fantasies? And many of these cryptocurrencies, they're like the .com bubble. They're not going to last. And we're getting to that phase. So, me personally, like I said before, outside of the protocols, you have to be very, very careful. I wouldn't be trying to play in these other cryptocurrencies, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, I taught myself how to invest, Chris D, through trial and error, through reading a lot of books, uh, due to like researching things. I told you guys before, I played in different markets and I've seen different things, and I that's how I've learned. Um, you should keep your me. I would get a safe, depending on where you live, right? Like you have to also think about your living conditions as far as storing your gold. Like if you live in a home, you need to make sure that you have a good hiding place and putting it in the safe. You got to think about, storing it. You can store it, underground somewhere in your walls. Like there's different places, but you need to make sure that you're storing it in places that's safe, that can't really where it can't be easily accessed and stolen. And this is why crypto is superior to gold, right? Because it's digital. So you don't have to worry about someone being able to break in and steal it. Like even with my ledger, if you don't know the code to my ledger, you can't get the crypto. And if I know my seed password, even if the ledger is damaged, I can back up my crypto. So that's why Bitcoin, in my opinion, is superior to gold, because it's easier to store it. Chainlink's a really good cryptocurrency. I like Chainlink. Chainlink's performing really well. So, Tyler Bennett, if someone tries to rob me, they're going to be in for a rude awakening, and that's all I'm going to say. They won't make it out alive. If you own gold, you should definitely own the means to protect it. And I'll leave that there. Libra is still coming. I don't know if you guys watch Mr. Robot. Mr. Robot's a really good show, and they talk about Evil Corp. And see, this is what a lot of you guys got to think about. As I said before, there's a lot of dominoes and moving parts, because look at these major tech companies. You don't think that they're sitting back right now and trying to seize power as well? You have a global power structure, a global power struggle happening right now, with major corporations, with multinational corporations, with governments, with rogue governments, and everyone's jockeying and jostling for power. And you have to explore all things. In Mr. Robot, Evil Corp creates their own currency, and they really control the world. And when you look at these tech companies, when you look at Facebook, Google, and Amazon, they pretty much control the entire internet. And we can wake up in a world where the world is ran and controlled and dictated by corporations, right? It may not be nation states, right? These tech companies may be able to overthrow and topple governments. So you have to really start thinking about that. Like there's a lot of moving pieces and parts out here that you need to make sure that you're paying attention to. And you don't get too caught up into all the conspiracy stuff. Get caught up into the things that you can touch. As I said before, I live in a 5 sense reality, right? I try to stick to things that I can see, I can touch, I can smell, I can taste, and I can feel. I don't try to dibble and dabble too much in a conspiracy. I like a good conspiracy, but everyone's trying to get power. And what do people with power want? They want more power. So there's a lot of things. There's a changing of the guard. And I spoke to you guys about this before. You're witnessing old money battle with new money. You're witnessing the tech billionaires and entrepreneurs battling with the oil industrialists, right? You're seeing the technologists battle with the industrialists, right? The people who they shaped the 20th century through oil and gas and railroads and through the Industrial Revolution, and now we have the tech revolution, and you're seeing old money and new money fight out, and maybe they're using China and Russia as a proxy. You have to really look at a lot of things. There's a lot of pieces moving around on this board, and you can't ever think that you have it figured out because you just don't know. Mm. Eli said, if you have gold, you should have the means to protect it. Facts. Second Amendment tequila. Thank you, Golden Gate. Um, no, I don't think that Tezos is better than Ethereum. I think it has the potential to become better than Ethereum. But as of right now, Ethereum has the most developers working on it. And I think a lot of you missed that idea. Not you, Reggie Bates, but just in general. Um, when you see the level of intellectual capital that's flowing into the cryptocurrency space, when you see the amount of capital that's being deployed, you would never say that that's a scam. Like when you see big name people who, they've worked at IBM, they've developed things, and they leave their jobs to go and start working on crypto projects. And when you see the amount of money that people are dumping into mining and, bringing mining facilities all the way up to Antarctica and, hydroelectric dams, and just the amount of, like, people are putting hundreds of millions of dollars into projects. You have to respect that. And when you have a lot of smart people, really intelligent people, I'm talking about people, not people who pretend to be smart, but people who are like real smart working on projects, and they're really developing things that people use, you have to say that they're going to be able to figure things out, and that's what I look for. I look for people who are really working on projects, serious people, not someone like Dan Larimer with EOS, a serial project hopper. He was with the whole Digibyte, then he jumped over to Steam, then he jumped over to EOS. Like when you see a person who's just a serial, a serial project starter and dropper, I don't take those people serious. Like people like, Adam Beck and Peter Todd, people who've been in this space and cryptography for a while, who have developed other projects, serious projects, like that's what I focus on. And when you see Ethereum, there's a lot of development happening on Ethereum, a lot of serious people working on that protocol. I'm not saying that won't happen with Teslas in the future, but it's not there right now, right? Like that's like amateur hour compared to Ethereum. I don't know too much about 5G, guys, to be quite honest with you. I haven't really looked. There's too many different things for me to look at. Right. I stick to my wheelhouse. I stick to crypto. And even with crypto, like there's so many new things happening, right? This industry is moving at lightning speed. So many different projects, so many new developments and things happening. It's hard to keep up. So I haven't had a chance to really look into the whole 5G thing, to be quite honest with you guys. And guys, please like the video. It helps the content get out there. But like when I look at chips, right? Like I want to be in Qualcomm. I want to be in NVIDIA. There's another chip, a semiconductor I was looking at. I can't remember the name off the top. But once I get the website up and running, once I get the website up and running, we're going to do we'll do twice a week group sessions where we get together and we'll have like a theme for the week. So it'll be like a potential sector or a particular sector or investment that we're looking at. And then we'll be able to really fully look through it and see, is it a good investment? How do we want to go into that investment? Like because I got that idea from Meet Kevin. Like once a week, Meet Kevin has, like, all of the people that's in his course, they have live streams, right? So we'll have a theme, we'll have a sector. Like, for example, a lot of you know that I'm into the precious metal mining stocks. So we'll sit down and we'll look at like 5 or 6 stocks, and we'll look at, what are the prospects? Is it a good investment? Is it a bad investment? But I think that that's the better way to do it. Like when we all get together and we can all put our minds together and really look at things, as opposed to just like, one person telling you, oh, this what you buy or that what you buy. Like I believe that, how's the saying goes, steel sharpens steel, or iron sharpens iron. So like having multiple people look over a particular investment and be able to pick each other's brain in a constructive way would be much better. But as I said before, I haven't really looked at the whole 5G thing. Again, Mark J, I totally agree with you when it comes to silver. I think that silver is a better buy than gold right now, just from the gold to silver ratio. Um, there's no way that central banks can control crypto, Kevlar. That's not the way cryptography works. No one can control cryptography. It's math and science. Decentralization doesn't work that way. Yeah, they can mimic it, but you can't control it at all. That's not how cryptography works at all. That's not how computers work. How's it going, Jerome? I like that comment, Jamal Walker. You left that comment earlier. You said you're going to do what a PhD finance professor should do, i.e., conduct a case study on various projects. Absolutely. Um, absolutely. Again, guys, think about it. 10 sets of eyes is better than one, right? Think about it. Like, I can't read and research everything. I can't research everything. I can't read everything, right? So if we're in a group and it's, let's say it's 5 or 10 of us, right? And we all sit down with our research and we say, okay, well, this is what I researched about this company and this is what I found about this company. Like tangible research, right? No conspiracy theory stuff, but we're going to be talking about like looking at balance sheets, looking at the competitors, right? Looking at the headwinds that's coming out. What regulatory hurdles may they have to jump through? Like, for example, if we're looking at a biotech stock right now, right? Let's say we're looking at Regeneron and we see that a lot of the FDA restrictions have been pulled away. So we can start looking at what other drugs are they working on besides just this pandemic drug, but what other drugs do they have in the pipeline that they may be able to speed up? They may have a cancer drug, for example, that they've been working on, but they've kept getting rejected by like the FDA. Well, if the FDA is out the way, the Food and Drug Administration, because they have lax regulations, well, a lot of these companies know that they're not going to be able to develop a drug to beat the virus. So a lot of these companies are going to be slick and just keep working on their other drugs and rush those through. Well, guess what? People are still going to be getting cancer after this pandemic thing is still going on. That could be huge for the bottom line of that stock. So that we can start looking at biotech companies and saying to ourselves, which biotech companies stand to benefit from these loose regulations, right? Like, these are the type of conversations that we should be, engaging in, because then now you can start looking at, well, okay, some of these biotech stocks, they can, double, triple if they get certain drugs that move to, like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 quickly. So, now Kevlar, right? I get that question a lot, and I'm not going to call you a troll, but a lot of trolls ask this question. They say, how are you going to use Bitcoin if there's no electricity? If, there's no power, there's no Wi-Fi. And I would say to you, number one, Bitcoin's a language, it's a protocol. You actually can use Bitcoin, through satellite. You can have paper wallets. I mean, it's extremely inefficient to do that, right? But when you understand that Bitcoin is math, like you can literally, I can do a Bitcoin transaction with paper and pencil. It would be extremely slow and inefficient. But remember, like we're really just applying hash functions and math. Like if you ever taken math classes, algebra, stuff like that, it's just simple math. But I would tell you, let's be realistic, right? Like, obviously, no one's going to want to have to write down a Bitcoin transaction. That would be extremely slow, hard, and inefficient. If we don't have electricity, I want you to also think about what else doesn't work. You're right. It would be hard to use Bitcoin with no electricity. Guess what else doesn't work? ATMs doesn't work either. Right? You can't keep your food cold either. Gas stations don't pump gas. You won't be able to Zelle money. Cell phones don't work. So if you get to a situation where we don't have any electricity, you're going to have more important things to worry about than money at that point. So just want to put that there. So we'll go another 10 minutes. See what else is in here. Prince Aruba, that's a good question. Are we on the verge of losing this country? I don't really have a good answer for that question. Some people think that this is the 4D chess move that the United States is playing. I don't believe that this is the 4D chess move, in my personal opinion. And this opinion could change, right? That's why I'm hesitant on this. But all great empires fail, right? If you go to the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, right, the Ottoman Empire, all great empires fail, and they always fail the same way. They become drunk with power. They start to debase their currency. People lose faith in God and religion, where all kind of freaky things become open. There's no morality in the society anymore. I mean, look at our country. Like, we don't have any real morals, principles. People lose faith in institutions because you watch institutions get away with literal murder. Society begins to break down from the inside. And look what's happening in our country, right? Like, we're seeing things break down. People don't trust institutions, people are beginning to lose faith in their government, lose faith in their courts, lose faith in their police. And when people lose faith in things, they tend to, I would say, kind of hope for the collapse of their, government or their society. When you look at other countries, they're very disciplined. They have authority, they have rules, they respect their institutions. So, just from a moral standpoint, from a financial standpoint, we look like we're on decline. Health-wise, we're obese. Many people are illiterate. They can't read, they can't write. So I would say that we're definitely, headed in the wrong direction. But never underestimate the spirit of people to rise to the occasion, right? Never count people down and out, right? Look at our ancestors. Many of them were, beat, brutalized, tortured, forced to not be able to read, and all type of, atrocities were committed against our people. But look what we were able to fight through that as well, right? So, never underestimate a person's spirit to fight back. So, there's hope. And that's why I try to tell you guys, don't look at things so negative, right? There may be light at the end of the tunnel, but right now it doesn't look good. It just doesn't. I'll be honest with you. It doesn't look good. It doesn't. It doesn't look good right now. High value, 100%. Some people literally want America to collapse, where they're working with foreign governments. I spoke to you about, I believe his name is Joe Lieberman, who is working with Huawei, in ZTE, where their chips are spying on people. We have American, former American senators and congressmen and women who, after they leave out of Congress, they're working with, foreign governments that are hostile towards the U.S. We have professors, like I did in the video about China, who, they're selling out, powerful technology about implanting microchips into the brain. They're selling that out and working with China. So, we have a lot of people who hate America, but a lot of people hate America and they have reason to. Right? Right. A lot of people have reason to, because America didn't take care of home. America didn't take care of home. So, you have to take care of the people in your country first before you take care of outsiders. And we didn't do a good job of taking care of our own. We're too busy taking care of the elites and the rich. And look what the elites did. They sold us out to China. They deindustrialized us. They shipped our jobs overseas. So, there's a lot of moving parts to this. I did a video on that high value about the NBA in China. Okay, we'll go another 5 minutes. Andre B, I would stick with American Eagles. You can't go wrong. If somebody just sent a donation, I just want. Shell D Easy says safety deposit box a good idea for gold. If you don't feel comfortable that you can secure your own precious metals in your own home, then I would go with that. But again, remember, you're running into counterparty risk. You're trusting that safety deposit box can't become confiscated or tampered with. And in the event that they make gold and silver illegal like they've done before, the first place they're going to go to is the banks and take it out of those safety deposit boxes. So me personally, I don't think that that's a good idea. But if you don't have anywhere else to put it, then listen, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So if you don't have a better place to put it, then yeah, I would say do that. But just remember, remember there's risk, there's pros and cons to all things. And that's why it's not called flip-flopping, guys. It's called investing. You have to have an open mind and understand that. If you store it at home, there's the possibility that someone can break into your home and steal it. So you shouldn't really be out here parading the fact that you own gold and silver. You should make sure that you're bolting your safes down. It should be a fireproof safe. You should figure out a way that maybe you could put the safe in your wall or on your floor somewhere, something like that. But if you don't feel comfortable keeping that type of stuff in your home, then maybe a safety deposit box is the way to go, or just go with the paper version, right? But again, you're running risk with that as well. So it's always risk and reward. Me personally, I like to hold my assets. I like my assets to be in my hand. I like to be able to touch them and see them. So I keep my gold with me, or I keep my gold in places with people whom I do trust to protect my stuff, And that goes back to, if you're into prepping, if you got a ranch somewhere, something like that, then you may want to store your stuff there. There's different ways to do it, but you'll figure that out. This is why crypto is important, because again, with Bitcoin, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about a third party holding your crypto, not your keys, not your Bitcoin, right? A lot of people keep asking me about carrot bars. If it's a network marketing affiliate marketing thing, you guys know where I stand with that. I don't think it's a good idea. I have a video on my channel about how to buy Bitcoin. I have a whole video on the channel. Just go look through my channel. No, oil didn't flash crash. It just crashed there because of supply and demand. But yeah, back to high value, like you said. I did a video about the NBA in China. I should do another video on that. A lot of our corporations are in bed with China because they want to do business over there. Again, like I said, our corporations have sold us out. And that's just the reality. Our corporations have definitely sold us out. And that's just the reality. And we have to be honest with that. The financial elite, they've deindustrialized the West. And, they're not patriots to this country. Let's just keep it real. And when you see the NBA's, they literally moved the All-Star game out of North Carolina because of transgendered bathrooms. I want you to think about that, right? They moved the NBA because of a state said that they need to take more time to figure out men going to men's room and women going to the women's room. Excuse me. So the NBA said, you know what? We're going to move the entire All-Star game. LeBron James is Mr. Modern Day Muhammad Ali. He speaks up for injustices. China is harvesting people's organs. They have 1.5 Uyghur Muslims in concentration and internment camps. Right? Miss AOC, she's all about the border. They care about the kids at the border. Oh my God. China was burning their people alive that were sick with the virus. Right? China then, they sent supplies over to European countries that didn't even work. And now here you got the NBA. They're supposed to be, this whole organization about, civil rights. There's no bigger offender in violating civil rights than China. They were beating their people in Hong Kong. The people in Hong Kong were protesting for basic rights, fair elections, And China said, you will shut up and you will dribble when you are in our country. And you know what the NBA did? They shut up and dribbled. You know why? Because it's all about that money at the end of the day. See, here in America, you can criticize your politicians. You can criticize your president because you have freedom of speech. Over there in China, there's no freedom of speech. You say something they don't like, a black van comes and gets you and no one doesn't hear from you ever again. So that shows you what the NBA is about. They're not about freedom. They're not about liberty. They're not about justice for all. LeBron James he's not this, humanitarian. He's a businessman. And he realizes there's 1.3 billion people in China that likes basketball. So I'm going to shut up and dribble so I can sell my sneakers. And guys, we know that. Listen, we know what it's about. It's about money. But this is what guys, an athlete and entertainer doesn't dictate my morality, my principles, my standings, and what I do, right? My intelligence tells me what I stand for, right? Because when Tamir Rice, I forgot where Tamir Rice is from. I believe he's from somewhere in Ohio. When the young man Tamir Rice was gunned down, right? LeBron James didn't say anything. He didn't say anything. And that was in his own hometown or in his home state. Right? So we know that these guys, listen, man, when Martin Luther King Day comes around, they have the NBA game. They're going to make some custom sneakers. They're going to make some T-shirts. It's about business, man. Wokeness is a business. Being woke is a hustle. I told you guys that a long time ago. Being woke is a hustle, right? You seen all these rappers are woke. Man, they woke because they know they can sell records. Notice every time a rapper falls off and his record's not selling anymore, now he wants to become woke and he wants to talk about social issues. It's a hustle, guys. It's all a hustle. You see? It's all a hustle, right? And the problem is a lot of people get caught up in that. That's, the word is symbolism, right? It's symbolic. Like, oh my God, look at LeBron James. He's the modern day Muhammad Ali. That's free marketing, because who's his demographic? I don't want to see gestures, man. I want to see you stand up when it's hard. Muhammad Ali went to jail for what he believed. Let me say this for you again. Muhammad Ali went to jail, right? Muhammad Ali wasn't an activist when he could make money. Muhammad Ali, how long he went to jail for? I think it was like 2 years, 3 years of his life that he went to jail for what he believed in. He wasn't like, these athletes get $100 million, come on, man. You can't take these people serious. Take these people serious. You see? I don't listen to nothing that these people say, man. This is all about business at the end of the day. And he went to jail in his prime. You gotta think about that. Like, Muhammad Ali went to jail in his prime, not at the end of his career. Like, in his prime, he went away for that. So, gotta give that man respect. Put some respect on his name. Don't ever compare LeBron James to no Muhammad Ali. That's disrespectful to Muhammad Ali. It's disrespectful, man. That's like when I see y'all compare Umar Johnson to brother Malcolm X. Like, are you crazy? Are you crazy? Compare Umar to Malcolm? Man, y'all must be out your mind, the stuff I see. And stuff I see on the internet, we got to protect him. He's the next Malcolm. Man, I'm not going to say what I really want to say. I'm going to be quiet. I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say what I really want to say. I'm going to be quiet because this video will get flagged if I say what I really want to say. Man, you was about your mind. Man, you know who Brother Malcolm was? Like, you see, like, man, creepy, man, you know. So, random donations, yeah, guys. So I'm gonna end the stream here, guys. I have to go work on the website and work with some people behind the scenes. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. Please do me a favor and like the video, share the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Make sure that you join the mailing list so that you can always be notified when I'm live and I make a video. Also, follow me on Instagram and shoot me a DM if you have any questions or you want to chat. And for those of you who donated tonight, thank you so much. I appreciate those of you who support the content financially. Definitely helps me free up some time where I don't have to focus on running my business to make these videos. And for those of you who are watching the stream later, if you want to support the content, a link to my PayPal is in the description. Guys, we're going to start cutting these live streams down to about an hour to an hour and a half. And we're going to start doing 2 streams. So I'm going to get to the point where I'm going to start streaming around like 2 o'clock. And then I'm also going to stream again at night. So therefore, we can get more content out. Because a lot of you guys said that you don't, it's hard for you to watch a whole 2-hour, 3-hour live stream. So thank you for tuning in. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a blessed, beautiful night.